Hey guys, this is Mrs. Vanderveen. We're going to be reading a book today called Pink and Say by Patricia Polacco. She is not only the author of this book, but she illustrated it as well. And this book is set in the Civil War, which is why I wanted to read it with you guys today. It's also based on a true story. Pink and Say were real people that actually lived. Both of the main characters that we see on the cover of this book are Union soldiers, meaning that they both fought for the North against slavery. You'll notice in the picture that one of these soldiers was black and one was white. And the two of them together are reading a book, and we'll get more about their relationship with one another as we read. But Pink and Say were only about 15 years old, which I think is so interesting. More about Pink. So, Pink, his full name was Pincus A. Lee, and he was born a slave. This is a real person. You can see in this illustration, his mother is putting his hat on him so he can go off to war. So she's saying goodbye to him. And like Pink, a lot of slaves who were slaves before the Civil War began became free after the Emancipation Proclamation, and a lot of them joined the military to fight and became Union soldiers. And even though blacks were allowed to fight in the war, they were not allowed to fight alongside white soldiers. They kept black and white soldiers separate. So you'll hear in the book that he is talking about his colored regiment. What that means is all of the people that fought alongside him in his regiment or group were also black. More about Say. Say is the white soldier we see in this picture. His full name is Sheldon Curtis, and he is from a farm in Ohio. And he didn't start out as a soldier. It was his job to walk out in front of the other Union soldiers and carry the flag. So they had someone that was a young person do that. But so many of the soldiers died that he ended up having to be a soldier too, even though he was only 15 years old. He got shot in the leg and he was left bleeding until Pink finds him. And that's how they meet. Now, here's some vocabulary words you're going to come across in this book. The first is mahogany. Mahogany is a type of wood. It's a really beautiful, rich brown color. And Say describes Pink's skin as the color of mahogany. And he also says he's actually never seen anyone with mahogany skin up close before. So he is a white farming child, and he does not ever come across anybody who has mahogany skin until he meets Pink. Marauders. Marauders are thieves. They talk a lot about this book in this book about being scared that marauders are going to find them. Marauders would go searching through farmland and they would see if they could find anything like food or valuables that people might have left behind. And if they found you where you shouldn't be, they might hurt you. So people tried to avoid being around marauders. Jumping the broom. Jumping the broom meant to get married. Slaves had to get permission to get married, and they had to have their owners say it was okay for them to get married. As part of the ceremony, they would lay a broom on the ground and they would jump over it. You can see in this picture, here's a couple doing that. They have the broom laying across the ground and they're jumping over it. Some African American people still do this today as a tradition to honor their ancestors. So if you ever hear the phrase, oh, they jumped the broom, that just means they got married. Mr. Lincoln, we know about him already, but I want to talk to you about why he's important to our story. Many former slaves thought of him as a hero because he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed them. So he was like the biggest, most important celebrity they could think of because he freed them and all slaves. And another interesting thing about him is that Say had the honor of shaking Mr. Lincoln's hand. So he had the ability one time to shake his hand. How amazing. A deserter is someone who runs away from the army because they don't want to fight anymore. Sometimes they were scared. War was very scary. And a lot of them, especially young men, might have wanted to run away, but it was against the law to do this. If you were caught after you deserted, you could get in big trouble. You could even be killed for deserting. Andersonville was a Confederate Army prison. So both the Union and Confederates had prisons And if they caught you and didn't want to kill you, they could take you as a prisoner and they could capture you and send you to one of their prisons. Andersonville was the biggest of the Confederate Army prisons. So those are all the vocabulary words you guys need to know. We're going to read Pink and Say next.